gold, greed, deception. In 1993, a lone geologist claimed to have found the mother lode in the jungles of Borneo. Overnight, Bre-X became a $6 billion company. Everyone wanted a piece of the golden pie, but in the heart of the rainforest, a master con was at work. How did one man fool the world's top geologists, investors, and governments, and did he escape with millions, or pay the ultimate price? Uncover the truth behind the largest mining fraud in history. The billion-dollar bluff, the Bre-X gold mining scandal. The mastermind, Michael de Guzman. At the heart of this audacious scheme stood Michael de Guzman, a Filipino geologist with a golden touch that would have made Midas himself envious. Born into a world where opportunities were scarce, de Guzman was a man of considerable talent and even greater ambition. Mike de Guzman knew he was smart, recalled a former colleague. He had fabulous marks, he had an engineering degree, but he never got a great job. It's very difficult for Filipinos, even with extremely good engineering training, to get senior jobs with the big mining companies. This frustration, this burning desire to prove himself and claim the wealth he believed he deserved, would ultimately drive de Guzman to orchestrate one of the most audacious frauds in financial history. The setup, a jungle full of promise. On December 13, 1993, de Guzman ventured into the heart of Borneo's untamed wilderness. To the world, he was a lone prospector on the verge of the discovery of a lifetime. In reality, he was about to set in motion a scheme that would fool experts, excite investors, and ultimately crumble under the weight of its own impossibility. The stage for this grand deception was Busang, a remote area in the Indonesian part of Borneo. It was a place of dense jungle, exotic wildlife, and, if de Guzman was to be believed, unimaginable mineral wealth. These series of jungle hills in Indonesia, de Guzman would later claim, have all been formed by a volcano lying on top of a pool of gold. It was a geological theory just plausible enough to be believable. This debate hooking the big fish. With nothing more than a few rocks, some dubious maps, and an unshakable belief in his own cunning, de Guzman set out to find a partner for his scheme. He found his mark in David Walsh, a down-on-his-luck Canadian businessman with a history of failed ventures and a desperate need for a big score. Walsh was, as one observer put it, the kind of guy who's always talking up a story. He had been bankrupt, lived out of his car, and was at a point where he was looking for some promising properties. In short, he was the perfect man to front de Guzman's operation. In a meeting that would change both their lives, de Guzman convinced Walsh to invest $80,000 in a patch of Borneo jungle he'd never even seen. It was a risky move for Walsh, basically his last few bucks, but the potential payoff seemed too good to pass up. The alchemy turning dust into gold. De Guzman's genius lay not in finding gold, but in creating the illusion of its abundance. He employed an age-old mining trick called salting, but with a twist that would baffle experts for years. Using gold shavings from his own wedding ring, de Guzman meticulously seeded core samples with just the right amount of gold to appear incredibly rich without raising suspicion. His calculations were precise, his methods ingenious. The challenge to Michael, explained one insider, was taking 40 pounds of rock and figuring out exactly how many gold flakes should go in there. In other words, there's 3 ounces of gold per ton of rock, so he's got to do a fair amount of division and he's got to carefully weigh out his gold. This painstaking process was crucial. As the insider noted, if he'd grabbed a teaspoonful and chucked it in, the gold grade would have been phenomenal and people would have gone, it would have attracted attention. The surge, a stock market frenzy. As glowing reports of Busang's potential reached the market, Bre-X stock began to climb. From a penny stock trading at mere cents, it soared to heights that seemed almost unbelievable. This company went from $1 or $2 to $286, marveled one financial analyst. You can watch this stock move. We'll go from $20 to $30 in the space of 3 weeks. Investors from Wall Street tycoons to small-town retirees scrambled to get a piece of what seemed to be the largest gold deposit in the world. The frenzy was all-consuming. Everybody wanted to be the suitor to walk down the aisle with Bre-X, recalled one market watcher. Wall Street and investors elsewhere and analysts elsewhere were totally on side, totally enthusiastic, totally hypnotized by the rising stock price, by the rising claims of Bre-X. The expansion building the illusion. As Bre-X's profile grew, so did the complexity of de Guzman's deception. He started by hiring a young Filipino staff over which he had total control. The person really in charge on site in Busang was Michael de Guzman, noted one observer. To keep up with the demand for salted samples, de Guzman needed a larger supply of gold. He turned to local Indonesian natives who made their living panning for gold in the rivers. Michael befriended this fellow and started buying gold often, revealed an insider. Over a period of about 2 years, Michael bought about $61,000 worth of gold off this guy. When independent auditors came to verify Bre-X's claims, de Guzman was ready with explanations for any inconsistencies they might find. He cited a phenomenon called the nugget effect, in which gold is distributed unevenly throughout a deposit. He insisted on crushing entire core samples, effectively destroying the evidence of his tampering. It was crushing up all the core, explained one expert. Nobody could check. By having crushed up all the core, basically they destroyed the evidence. By 1997, Bre-X was a sensation. Its market capitalization had reached an astounding $6 billion. De Guzman had transformed himself from a struggling geologist to a wealthy man pocketing millions in stock options. The scope of the supposed find was staggering. Gold is trading at $350 an ounce, noted one financial report. If you multiply it out, it's about $70 billion. De Guzman's boldest move came when he declared that Bre-X had found a second massive gold deposit nearby, dubbed Busang's Second. Once again, de Guzman has Felderhoff fire off a message to David Walsh. "We've got a monster by the tail," recounted an insider. The claim sent Bre-X stock soaring even higher. Walsh, riding high on the company's success, applied for Bre-X to be listed on the Nasdaq and the Toronto Stock Exchange. But as the saying goes, all that glitters is not gold. The very scale of Bre-X's supposed find began to attract unwanted attention. The Indonesian government, eyeing the potential riches, decided to challenge Bre-X's claim to the deposit. The beginning of the end for Bre-X was a problem in Indonesia, explained one analyst. The Indonesian government, which is hideously corrupt, decides to challenge Bre-X's claim to this fabulous deposit. In August 1996, the Indonesian government revoked Bre-X's exploration permit and opened the property to other mining companies. This move forced Bre-X to accept a new partner, Freeport-McMoRan, a major player in the mining industry. The involvement of Freeport-McMoRan posed a serious threat to de Guzman's scheme. As independent geologists began drilling uncomfortably close to de Guzman's golden sites, the house of cards began to tremble. Desperate to maintain the illusion, de Guzman took drastic action. He destroyed all his records at Busang, claiming it was an accidental fire. What went up in smoke that day would ultimately help cover the trail of the conspirators that did this wrong, noted one investigator. When news got out about the partnership with Freeport-McMoRan, Bre-X's stock dropped by $1 billion in a single day. But de Guzman wasn't done yet. He countered by releasing new drilling results that dramatically increased the estimated gold reserves. They had previously said that they had 57 million reserves, explained a financial analyst, and they increased that to slightly over 70 million reserves. Given that the ownership that they had and percentage went down, to make the value be the same, they had to increase the reserves. The gambit worked, at least temporarily. Bre-X's stock rose again. The fall, a mysterious end. In March 1997, with walls closing in from all sides, de Guzman was summoned back to Indonesia. Freeport-McMoRan's samples were coming up empty and they wanted answers. On March 19, de Guzman boarded a helicopter headed for the Busang site. What happened next remains shrouded in mystery and speculation. He's about 400 or 500 feet in the air over some of the deepest rainforest in all of Indonesia, recounted one witness. And the pilot looked into the back seat and de Guzman was gone. De Guzman had jumped out of the helicopter apparently. 3 days later, the Indonesian army claimed to find de Guzman's body. It was badly decomposed and partially eaten by animals, so gruesome that authorities wouldn't let his family view the remains. The circumstances of de Guzman's death immediately raised suspicions. It was very difficult to believe that they took 2-3 days to find the body, noted one skeptic, when in fact the pilot said he did set the GPS recorder so they should have been able to find the spot. Rumors swirled. Was it suicide, murder, or had de Guzman in one final act of deception faked his own death? The gambit worked, at least temporarily. Bre-X's stock rose again and shareholders remained thrilled. The aftermath, a dream turned nightmare. With de Guzman gone, the truth of Busang quickly came to light. Independent drilling took place directly beside where de Guzman had taken thousands of samples, and not a single ounce of gold was found. They go and they drill their own core samples and the security they have around that is unmatched, explained one insider. They are drilling 2 or 3 feet away from where Bre-X said tons of gold. All they find is rock. There is no gold there. The revelation sent shockwaves through the financial world. Bre-X stock, once valued at $286 per share, plummeted to mere pennies. Thousands of investors, from large institutions to small individual shareholders, saw their investments evaporate overnight. People who have basically put a lot of their life savings into Bre-X lose everything, lamented one financial advisor. The legacy lessons learned and questions unanswered. The Bre-X scandal shook the financial world to its core. It led to stricter regulations in the mining industry and served as a stark reminder of the age-old adage, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Surprisingly, no criminal charges ever arose from the Bre-X scandal. No one has ever spent a day in jail as a result of it, noted one legal expert. The key players met various fates. David Walsh moved to the Bahamas and died of a brain aneurysm in 1998. John Felderhoff, another key figure in the scandal, was acquitted of insider trading charges and now lives in the Cayman Islands. As for Michael de Guzman, his fate remains a subject of speculation. Some believe he died in the jungle that day, while others are convinced he faked his death and is living off his ill-gotten gains in anonymity. "I actually believe that Michael de Guzman is alive," insisted one conspiracy theorist. "I don't think that he did fall out of that helicopter. I believe that he faked his own death, and that he's enjoying the money that he scammed from Bre-X. Whether de Guzman rests at the bottom of the Borneo jungle or lives on in obscurity, he left behind a legacy as one of the most audacious fraudsters in financial history. He proved that with enough nerve, a little gold dust, and a lot of imagination, one man could fool the world, at least for a while. The Bre-X scandal serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked greed and the importance of due diligence. It's a story that continues to fascinate and horrify in equal measure, a testament to the enduring power of the glitter of gold to blind us to reality.